Welcome back to the podcast. On today's episode, we're going to have Kristen Lundberg. She is a actress, a stand-up violinist, comedian, and I'm probably butchering that horribly, but she's the one of the funniest people that we've had on the podcast to date. And before we jumped into this fantastic episode, we're going to hear a word from today's sponsor. So stay tuned.
All right, welcome back to the show. On today's episode, we have a very, very special guest. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
I'm Kristen Lundberg. Hi.
How are you?
I'm doing good, man. How are you doing?
Doing good. It's nice to meet you.
Thanks, man. Thank you. You just you messaged me randomly on Instagram one day. I'm kind of curious how you found out about me, honestly.
I was just scrolling through Instagram and I saw a sponsored ad for you pop up.
Nice. It's good to know that my money's going to a good place. It's working out.
Right?
I was like, I'm in an Amazon commercial right now. It's airing nationwide, and I was like, if they're, they pay for commercials, why don't I pay for a commercial for myself? You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah.
That was my thinking there. Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about yourself and how you got into acting and comedy.
Yeah. So I'm from Dayton, Ohio originally. It's like pretty much nothing to do there. I was kind of a traumatized kid. My parents, they used to fight and, do kind of other kind of things. I don't want to get too in detail there, but there's a little bit of trauma there that I was kind of working through, and comedy was a way for me to work through it. Especially at a young age. It's like, pretty powerless. There's nothing I could do but to, try to get the adult's jaw to drop and, make them laugh. And so it started as like a coping mechanism, I guess you could say. And then I started doing stand-up in Dayton because they didn't have any other I don't know. I guess I wouldn't say they didn't have anything else, but I didn't have money for everything else. It's like stand-up was like the cheapest way to get into comedy. It's like the most accessible. You might have to buy a drink at most. It's very low key. There's nothing at risk there. So I started off doing that, and then gradually went off to Chicago and joined the Second City and started taking more serious acting classes. And then that's how I just worked my way over to LA. I was wanting to be on late night for a while there because I do stand up with the violin. I don't know if you saw any of that on my profile there, but I'm planning to do a special called Philharmaniac this coming holiday season, 2023. It'll be my stand-up violin comedy special. It'll be kind of like a crazy little adventure there. So I'm excited to embark on that. And I guess that's how I got started and how I'm where I am.
Very cool. So tell me about your experience with Second City, because a lot of really, really high-level comedians have come out of there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Second City, it just seemed like, to me, I'm from Dayton and Cincinnati. I lived in Cincinnati there for a while, too. And it was like the mecca of comedy. I felt like it was almost a religious experience. Like I had to go there, like I was called. And I went there, and it was like I felt like actually doing the stand-up was the more of the religious experience, and doing the Second City was like very hectic for me. I love teamwork. I love working. I worked at Papa John's for 7 years. And so not saying anything good or bad about Papa John's, by the way, but yeah, just make with that information what you will. Okay. So I had like worked on teams, but then like when we got into the improv world, like working on a team in that kind of facet, in that kind of manner, was just like totally crazy to me. Like it really took, like I had to do a lot of adjusting and a lot of learning to be like a functioning part of a improv team there. But, you know, once I got the hang of it, I started really enjoying it, and I made really good friends, lifelong friends there and at IO. And yeah, it was a hard experience for this. You know, I'm trained in violin, I'm trained in stand up, you know, I kind of trained myself. So it was like a very, you know, stand up is a very self-serving kind of thing. So yeah, I had to make some adjustments, but what I did, it worked out. It's nice.
Very cool. So in your journey to stand up, did you have any one comedian or multiple comedians that you may have looked up to that kind of influence your type of comedy?
Yeah, I remember this one comedian I used to listen to when I was a kid. Her name was Etta May. And I remember she always had this joke where she'd be like, yeah, I look like something you'd pull out of a shower drain. And like that kind of thing. I just thought it was like, she was so funny. She was a very Southern woman. I think Jane Lynch does like a caricature of her in maybe it's Hacks, or some other or maybe it's Marvelous Miss Maisel, where she does like kind of a bigger lady. It's like a caricature of like a stupid fat Southern woman, right? And Etta May was that. She was that woman. And I don't know if Jane Lynch was trying to make fun of her. Okay, I don't know if anybody knows what I'm talking about. But anyway, Etta May was just like, to me, just like a very classic funny. She's the kind of funny that my family was. So it was very like accessible to me. I was like able to really laugh at, like, I'm like, oh, she's like my grandma. She's like my mom, you know? She says the same kind of shit. And so nobody really knows about her, who she is, but she used to do shows at Wiley's in Dayton and at the, what was it? There was an old club in Dayton, by the Dayton Mall. I forget what they were called, but they were just like, it's just called Jokers or something. I think that's what it was called. And I also really liked Patton Oswalt, and then I ended up featuring for him a couple of times, which is cool. And other comedy influences, you know, I really love the riled up energy of a Cat Williams or a Fluffy. Like, I really love that that stadium energy that, you know, where you can see that they're sweating and they're really giving a good performance. You could tell it's really taking a toll on their mind and body and soul. Those are the kind of comedians I like. Andrew Dice Clay.
Yeah, I think Kinison. That you're right.
Yeah,
your brand of comedy is definitely different than anything that I've seen, which is, it's a good thing because it makes you stand out, at least in my eyes, anyways.
Thanks, dude.
You know, and I was watching, I think it was a small clip on your Instagram of you doing stand-up with the violin. How did that come into play for you?
Oh, I don't know. It was like some kind of weird version of like punk rock rebellion I was experiencing. Like once I was like deep in the stand-up trenches. I'm like 7 years in. I'm like deep in, like I felt like I was deep in it, you know. And I was like, time to switch it up, man. I want to do something crazy, like, you know. I want to play this violin. And then they're like, well, Henny Youngman already did it, and like this other person already did it. I'm like, I don't care, you know. They didn't do it like I'm about to do it. So it was kind of like a punk rock, because like I like to play like power chords. Like, if I don't make up a whole lot of songs, but when I do, they're like, it's like power chords. It's like me banging on this violin like it's violent. Like, it's not like I've broken strings before. Like, it's not like a pretty princess play. But so that's why I started it. That's kind of what draw me to it, because I was like, I figured out how to do stand up. How do I break stand up? Like, how do I, like, I just wanted to make something new and like musical comedy, but not in a sense of like how we think of traditional musical comedy. Like I think of like Sound of Music, I think is like, you know, kind of like there's jokes, but you know, usually the music's better than the jokes. And I was like, no, I want the jokes to be like better than music. You know what I mean? Like I wanted it to be really funny, like, and like wild. And so I started playing like that for a while, and I ended up getting like on America's Got Talent. I had this crazy bit where I would be like, I would play some fiddle really fast, like Irish reels. And I would be like, okay, so you all saw me play, and you're probably thinking, man, she could play the fiddle pretty good. But can she play the fiddle with no pants? And then I ripped off my pants, and I would play the same thing. And they went wild. Like, they loved that shit. But, dude, it was just the beginning, you know? So that was what brought me into it. And then a year ago, I broke my fingers. And I wasn't able to play for a whole year, and it was like very liberating and cool at first, and I was excited. But then, you know, I started getting back into it, and I feel currently like a longing to like show appreciation and gratitude to myself and to the instrument and to the art of stand up and the art of solo violin playing. And like, so I want to make a special. And so it's very, where I am now with the violin is very different than where I started it. Well, I started it like I was an asshole. I was just bringing a violin to be an asshole. Actually, I didn't even bring in a full violin. I brought in a little tiny one. And like, I thought it was stupider to play a tiny one. And it was actually really a lot harder to play a tiny violin. And people are like, dude, why don't you just play like a full size violin? Like, what are you doing? I'm like, yeah, I guess I could make it like a real acrobatic, like a real spectacle if I had like the real violin, you know, the full size. But yeah, I used to be like really crazy with it. And now I'm trying to refine it and put like a more Princess Diana edge onto it. And like, I don't know, like I'm just kind of putting like a new coat of paint on everything that I did, which is fun.
Oh yeah, and like most things, it's got to evolve at some point. And
yeah,
you know, I think it's really cool. I mean, it's not anything I've ever seen. So, I mean, just looking from the outside, it was absolutely hilarious.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I'm gonna upload some more clips here. I've been uploading them onto YouTube a lot. That, like, I don't know, they get a lot of hits on YouTube, which is exciting. But yeah, it's always great to hear that. You know, there was one point in my life where somebody would say that, come up to me and tell me that after my set, and I would be like, cool, thanks. Like, I just like wouldn't care as much. Like, you know, it was like, I don't know, just like after going through my injury and everything, I just appreciate it so much more. So, thanks.
Absolutely,
on
absolutely.
Real.
So,
yeah.
You know, in your comedy journey, what do you think the hardest part of coming up with material is? Because I would imagine a lot of it, you know, has some true life aspects to it. Yeah.
I mainly draw from like 3 aspects of life. Those are like my upbringing with my family, any experiences I had in orchestra itself, and then like people I live with currently, which is just like my cat right now. But before I had like roommates and stuff, I would write about them. And like, yeah, just and like boyfriends and stuff. So like romantic relationships. So I would just like it sounds like kind of a short list, but there's a lot to draw from in those areas if you just keep digging and digging and digging. I mean, when I was really actively writing, I would wake up every single day and write for an hour and like literally just try to write like some kind of joke about something having to do with my family, my current living situation, or orchestra, or my boyfriend, or whoever. And like if I didn't have anything, any jokes is fine. It was just like a journaling session then, but sometimes, you need to stretch before you run the sprint, right? So I'll just kind of start off journaling and, seeing whatever comes up. And then, 15, 20 minutes in, like, okay, let's like try to write a joke. It's like, it's nothing really inspired. There's no like magic to it. There's no like lighting of an incense and putting on music and spraying, like magic writing party dust or like, there's no like, so every now and then, maybe if I'm in the shower or something, it's like, oh, something kind of pops up into my head. But if it doesn't have to do with family or my orchestra life or my current living situation, it doesn't go in my act. It's just kind of like, I don't talk about political shit. I don't talk about like anybody else's sex life. I don't try to generalize, when the happens, I don't do any of that. Like, it's all very specifically for my life. And also for that, I don't worry about people stealing my shit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, with some of the things that you've done, do you have any places that you've done stand up that you've had a very good experience with and that you've enjoyed?
Yeah, when I was living in Chicago, I really enjoyed playing at the Chicago Laugh Factory. And then I would, that reminds me of the Hollywood Laugh Factory that, we don't have that relationship anymore. But like at Chicago Laugh Factory, I could go play there anytime. That's pretty much it as far as like comedy clubs go. I'm not really like a comedy club girl anymore. I used to try to really get into those, but then I found myself really being more at like getting more gigs at like country clubs and places, especially now that I've really quote unquote cleaned up my act, since I have put the Princess Diana spin on, the way that I dress and my mannerisms and like, everything's like prim and proper, like a real soloist, because I grew up around people who played for real, and they put on a shizo. Okay, they wear beautiful jewelry, expensive dresses. So that has got me into places like country clubs, secret kind of comedy shows, like stuff, where it's like a little bit more like closed doors, which I actually enjoy more than a traditional comedy club. And they pay better too. So I found my own weird little niche. I like performing down in Huntington Beach. There's this place I perform at a tiki bar. It's just called the Tiki Bar, and it's like a secret. I don't know why they call it a secret comedy show. It's like they have an Eventbrite page. Tickets are like $75. I think that might include 2 drinks or something. And it's coming up this Thursday. I don't know when this podcast is released, but yeah, so I like performing there. And then I recently performed at this place called the Bob Baker Marionette Theater. That place was amazing. I might shoot my special there. Yeah.
There you go. That's really cool, because it's one of those things that from an outsider's perspective, you don't really see what goes on to make a set and to set up, ways to do things.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, definitely it's hard to set up the violent stuff. There's like a lot of hand-eye or hand-mouth coordination. It's not like, I don't know, strumming the guitar and singing at the same time is probably hard too. I don't really know, but yeah, it's kind of like that.
And see, with you doing something that is setting you apart from everyone, I think is, and I think I've already said it, but I think that's a really cool thing. And, it's one of those things where I feel like to be different is to be better. And you're right with the aspect of nobody can take your
Yeah.
material either, you know.
Yeah, and I really like that. Like, I feel like you and I share a similar outlook. Is like I haven't always believed this, but I've come to believe that being different is better than being better. Because I feel like you can have the best punchlines and you can have the best delivery and you can be the best dressed and have the most unique whatever. But if everybody else is really, really good, has really great punchlines, you just kind of fall into the background. But, when you have something that's like really different, it's like, okay, fine, I might not have the best punchlines or whatever. Who cares? Maybe I'm not the best dressed, but I definitely have the weird, like, you will never see no shit like this ever in your life.
Right? And you make people remember you. Because they don't see anything like that on a, not even a semi-regular basis.
Well, I mean, there's people go, oh, there's Henny Youngman, and then there's this other violin comedian in New York, and then they go, oh, did you see that one violin comedian on late night? I guess there was this one girl who writes for Stephen Colbert, and then she also plays the violin. She came up and did like a half-assed job of playing a violin to do a stand-up at the same time. I'm like, yeah, I've seen it. I'm unfazed. I don't. No offense. Sorry to her. I mean, her tennis shoes were so cute. Everything about her is really cool. It's just like, I want to show people what it's like to really integrate the two and not just like say a punchline and then play something and then say a punchline and then play something. It's like, no, we're not just putting, we're not putting a pack of uncooked noodles next to a pack of uncooked cheese and calling it mac and cheese. We're not doing that on the Kristen Lundberg edition. Okay.
Right.
You're getting the fully baked mac and cheese casserole blended together with 6 cheeses. Okay.
So I also saw that you did a Mountain Dew commercial. You got to tell me about that.
Oh yeah. Oh my God. Worst food poisoning of my life on that set. Oh my God. I was holding in the squirts all day that day. I was shooting for 2 days. Okay, we shot. First day, everything was fine. It's like little basic stuff for me. Then my dad came into town. He took me out to dinner, and I got food poisoning at the restaurant we were at. So I had to wake up the next day, go to the Mountain Dew set, and I was flying through the air. I did my own stunts. I was flying through the air, tucking my turds all the while, 450 frames per second or however many it is. It was a lot. And it was like 100 degrees. And it was like one of those days where it was the hardest day, but also the best day. Like, it was a hard day, but it was a good day. Like, spiritually and mentally, it was a good day. I was just having a bad body that day. But there were some things where I was like, whew, like, I don't know if I'm going to make it. There were some times like that. Yeah, my dad was on set and everything. It was cool. My dad got to see me in my element. Before that, I don't think he really understood, like, how much work goes into a production. I don't know if anybody really fully understands till you get there. It's like you see, like, this is dangerous. Like, there's like a bunch of really heavy metal shit everywhere, and people are moving around fast, and like, you could get clocked in the head with something. Like, there's all kinds of, like, it's like a military operation. And my dad works at the military. Well, he works at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Dayton, Ohio. So he works there on a military base. So he was all about, discipline, making sure I get a good job, it has health care and all that, yada, yada. And I don't know, it wasn't until he showed up on that set where he just kind of like, took, like, step back from hounding me over, what I do with my life. Because he saw, like, oh, it's not no bullshit. Like, it's like a operation. It's like a sting operation,
Right.
Yeah. And yeah. So yeah, Mountain Dew was fun. You know, they, I will say this, like, sometimes these commercials, they like to sneak you. They'll sneak you. They snuck me a little bit, okay? Like, I was just paid to be an on-camera principal. They're paying everybody, all the on-camera people, the same rate. There were no extras. Well, they decided to choose me to, like, be pretty much like the star of the commercial, you know? But I didn't get, like, a pay bump, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm jumping over a wall. I'm jumping on a mat, and they got 3 angles of each of those, like, shots. Like, a lot of the shooting time was spent on my coverage. And then they shot some other people doing cool shit too, but they didn't use those in the cut. They used the one guy breaking through a glass wall. They used the guy for like a split second, like leaving his hot dogs on the grill to go get the Mountain Dew. But like, there was 2 other ones that they shot that they didn't get. They didn't get any coverage in the commercial. But that's just like, I don't know. It's just the way it goes. And I don't know. I think it's kind of weird, like, that they could just decide, like, oh yeah, you know, they're going to kind of be sneaky about it. But like, oh yeah, Kristen, by the way, you're like the star, like you're the commercial. Like, this is like kind of all about this jump and everything, but they're not going to give you a pay bump or anything, you know?
Yeah, that is kind of shady.
Yeah, it's a little sneaky, I think, but I'm like, man, I guess I should have talked to, I don't know what you do. I don't know what you do, you know? Because you don't know until they finally edit it. You don't know how much of you they're going to use, because I've been in that other position before where they shot me doing cool stuff and I didn't make the cut. And so I definitely know that feeling, and like, you never know what they're going to do. And it's like, well, they already shot it and they already paid me. I'm grateful. I'm just grateful to be, like, you know, center of the attention, you know? Like, yeah, a couple of the other actors felt a little salty, but I do feel bad. But you know, whatever. It's not like I got paid any more than them, so.
Yeah, and you didn't make the final decision.
Yeah, right.
So what is coming up next other than the special you're working on?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm filming something like really weird project with a couple of art school friends here in a couple of weeks. My art school friends, they're from Cincinnati. We all went to the Art Academy of Cincinnati, and we worked on, we never collaborated together, but randomly one of them messaged me a few weeks ago and wanted to work on a project. So I'm excited about that. I don't know. I'm currently looking for a new theatrical agent. So that's kind of like the big thing on my plate right now. I just fired my team. I kind of didn't want to do that. Obviously, didn't want to do that. I've worked very hard to find a team. But I was just wanting to get more and better opportunities than I was getting, you know. I feel like right now, for as far as theatrical auditions and auditions for film and TV go, I'm being slept on, quote unquote. Like, I don't know, like, my face is all over national TV during every football game. You know, I'm hosting all these film festivals. I'm out here. I take classes, you know, like, working on my craft. And I can't, you know, I'm still trying to get some, you know, very basic, you know, guest star auditions. And just getting the auditions is a pain in the half. But I've decided, you know, until I find my new team, I'm going to get my own auditions. And then I'm not going to have, you know, kind of like dead weight sitting there hoping like, oh, she'll figure it out herself. And then we'll just kind of mooch on. Like, no. That's not how it's going to go. I'm going to cut that weight. I'm going to figure it out myself, and I'm going to hire someone else who can further it. But yeah, it was kind of a liberating feeling. My friend said that I had integrity, because I think a lot of people would try to find another team while they currently had a team, instead of, and to me, that's kind of like cheating on a boyfriend, or something. It's like, you don't go looking for another boyfriend while you still have a boyfriend. You know what I mean? Like, that's not cool.
Right.
Or girlfriend, whatever. So I'm like, yeah, I better just cut them off first, and then I'll just have faith in the universe, and everything will fall in its place. Which was incredibly hard for me to do because I just make all the moves. I'm like, I'm very aggressive in finding what I want, and and I really want auditions, and to let go of people that kind of were getting me auditions was really hard, but they just weren't the right ones.
Right. And you got to, at the end, you got to do what's best for you, and things happen as they do. And it's one of those things where you just, sometimes you just got to take a leap and see where you land.
Yeah. And there was other little micro things I'm not going to talk about, but it was something that I was thinking about for a long time. It's like pretty calculated, but still just doesn't, it's like one of those things where it's like, it doesn't feel good, but change doesn't always feel good. So who cares?
Exactly. And you never know what's around the corner.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's right. I'm not going to let the blessings of yesterday get in the way of the miracles of tomorrow. Okay. There's more coming. There's more coming.
So I know I found you on Instagram, and you mentioned your YouTube channel. Where can our listeners find you?
Yeah. Find me on my, come check out my website, Kristen'sFunnyHair.com. It's Kristen, and or KristenLundberg.com. They both go to the same place. And then check out my Instagram, Kristen Lundberg Comedy. Or if you want to check out if you want to keep tabs on my special, where that's headed, I have another Instagram called PhilharManiac. And that is the name of my special. It's also where I'm uploading a lot of violin clips. And I think that's about it. YouTube. I would love more YouTube subs. Yes. I love YouTube. I'll say YouTube is probably my favorite of the social media because of their long form content deep dives. And there's just always something good. Vice documentaries, all that kind of stuff. I love that kind of stuff on YouTube.
Exactly. And that's where you'll find this episode, is on our YouTube channel.
Yes, I'm excited.
So I will definitely tag you in that for sure.
Hell yeah.
Well, listen, I appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to chat with me. It's been a real pleasure to get to know you and kind of hear what you're about.
Yeah, man. Thank you. Hey, and it's really great to know that one of my freaking Instagram ads started working, man. I'm like, this is exactly the kind of stuff I want, though. I'm like, I love collaborating. The whole idea is to get people to find other collaborators and other creators to collaborate with. That was at the heart and soul of my pushing out promotions. It's like, I want likes and follows. That's cool too. But honestly, at the heart, I love collaborating and sitting down and talking with people about the nitty gritty. So thank you for having me on.
Absolutely. And I hope you have a good rest of the afternoon. And, it looks like things are going well and good things are to come, hopefully.
Thanks, brother.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, I appreciate it.